Hey, Alec, how's it
Uh,
going?
well, the recording's acting up as per usual. Just at the most, the video that it matters well on that it was quality, so we could have some sort of conversation. I mean, I guess we're not going to have tons of conversation about it because we're going to be listing.
Well, if we're gonna be
Everybody sees this
listing, we
video.
might miss some of your games along the way. Let's say that much.
I hope we don't. I hope we don't. I hope the viewers. I mean, you probably if you don't get all, you already have. Some of the games are going to be on here. Maybe not all 10. But maybe not all 10. Um,
You're gonna be like,
is this
my next game is, and then
my next
I'll
name?
have to guess based off of the description.
Next name is Rolling
God, you were falling
Apart. That's
apart
what my next.
already. Oh God.
Was I really? Was I falling apart while I was
Yeah.
saying falling apart? Oh no! This is a
Uh,
cursed video. We shouldn't make it.
this is perhaps a reflection on the decade we're about to talk about. It was that bad that it's come to, we shouldn't speak of
It's
it.
it's it's crumbling our video and audio quality.
As you can see with this little background image I found from like Polygon, we have such great games like Flappy Bird in the mix. I see Flappy Bird prominently positioned in this on our video here. Some other great ones.
Wow,
Okay,
wow, classic game right there.
Tiger Woods, great guy.
Great
All right,
games. PGA Tour. Yeah.
and a bunch of other
Uh,
things. But
why did you? Why?
I just needed a
Why
background.
Tiger
Just
Woods?
needed
Hey,
a background. And it's
Tiger
got
Woods and Flappy Bird.
no. It's a like a polygon of like a big collage of games of the decade.
Things. Oh, okay.
Apparently, Flappy
Tiger Woods,
Bird
PGA Tour.
was up there.
Yeah.
Flappy
I
Bird
mean,
is on my list. So
Flappy Bird is my number 3 game on my top 10
we're
games.
up there with Crane games in
Toriba.
general.
Hey, don't mock Pete.
I
I
will
loved
mock
his
that
list.
openly. It was
I,
awful.
no, no.
What?
I love that
That
list.
list
It
is
was
a
a great.
joke.
That list was so
Uh,
Pete Dorr, and I love everything that's on there.
you love every game that's on there.
I don't.
Yeah.
Didn't say that. I love the fact that he put the games that
Well, you
he loved
did.
on there.
You did. But okay. We're going to start with number 10 and work our way up to 15 and then back down to 1. As
Yeah,
every list goes.
as
Okay?
it what?
And we'll
I'm
alternate.
confused me now,
E.
but okay.
Skilliam is posted in the Discord. Okay.
All right. Is
He's
that
in the
that's your
Gens
first? That's your
Challenge.
number 10. That's your number 10 game. Is E Skillium
E.
posted?
Skilliam.
Okay.
Alright, I will say after making this list, I've realized that I'm a bad gamer. I need to play more games because like I see all these games that came out each year. I'm like, I would probably love that game. It would probably be in my top 10 if I had played it. But I just am not a good enough gamer to have played it. Like, there are a lot
Mhm.
of games I'm sure you'll mention that I'll be like, yeah, I would probably love that game too. It would probably be my favorite game of the decade if I had played it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very well could be.
Alright, so who's starting this? Number 10.
Um. I will begin us.
Begin me.
So number 10 is really tough for me because it's like okay. Hey, well, you got. I've got a long list of honorable mentions. I mean, I'm not going to say all my honorable mentions if and when we get to that, but I mean, it's hard. It's hard. I love video games so much. It's so hard to pick 10 to encapsulate a decade. And
Yeah.
I was trying to think of games that meant a lot, not just to me, to gaming as a whole, but then I was also being like, well, the most important thing is what these games mean to me. So yes,
Yeah.
it does. I mean, in some aspect, yes, how people receive it matters, but ultimately what I get out of the game is what matters the
Yeah,
most.
I will say that there are games on my list that I've played other games that I would consider better games, but
Quote unquote, yeah,
like these are my favorite, you know.
yeah, yeah. And so this list is so difficult for me because I don't necessarily want to like stack a series. You know, I don't want to just rep every game because I loved. There's a lot of great Zelda games, for instance, that came out
Yeah.
in this decade. Like really, really great Zelda games. But okay, so my number 10 is Shovel Knight.
Oh, of the Legend of
Um,
Zelda series.
yes, of the Legend of Zelda series. Um,
Good game.
no, but Shovel Knight is the perfect throwback game. Um, because it looks and sounds like one to a point. I mean, it sort of tricks you because it looks way better than any of those games would have ever looked. But it packs in so much fun and so much enjoyment and so much replayability, and they're still releasing content to the game up to the end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just amazing, and that was all free. If you bought the game, if you bought the game back when it first came out, all of the DLC that's come out for it is all free.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is just confidence in the game, confidence in the product that they put out, that they continued to spend money and develop things in the game. But the game is so good that it speaks for itself, basically. There's definitely a large following started out. I mean, it wasn't the most funded Kickstarter ever. You know, it only raised, I think, 300,000 or something like that, in the 300,000 range. I mean, that's still a lot of money. It still met like a bunch of the goals or whatever, but just the craft and the polish of that game is just second to none. And I look forward to whatever Yacht Club develops next, because fun indie games were just they've never been better.
Yes.
So than in this decade. So I gotta rep Shovel Knight. I love that whole game. It's very fun.
Okay. Very good. I played it. It's a good game.
Mm-hmm.
But probably around the top 50 range for me. No shots. No shots.
Okay.
The Shovel Knight. Okay, so my number 10 is the world-renowned, best definitive version of this game series, Tetris Party Deluxe on the Wii.
Sure. I'll take your word for that.
I would say there's probably, like, I've played Tetris Ultimate on the PS4, and I have it on the 3DS too, and that's really good. That would probably be better, but Tetris Party Deluxe is, like, what got me into Tetris again. Like, next to the documentary that I watched back with the Virtua Guild when they were doing that, Ecstasy of Order was about Tetris, competitive Tetris, and that got me really into it. But then I started playing Tetris Party Deluxe with my family. We would all go on because you could have up to 4 people at once. It was cool. Like, I just fell in love with Tetris as a game at its core, and from there, Batsa sent me the NES Tetris, and that was good. But like the Wii one has like weird gimmick stuff, like you can use powers and send them against each other and stuff, and like when you get a Tetris, it'll drop on someone else's, that kind of stuff. But it was really fun.
Dumping garbage. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And it's one of the few games that I consider myself pretty good at. Like, probably one of the 3 games, and they might all be represented on this list, but we'll see. All right, that's it.
Okay. Cool. We're moving along. I shouldn't have put my phone down. I don't know why I did that. So next game on my list. Well, it was a divisive game. To some. I mean, a lot of the games on my list probably will be to some people, but I think ultimately is a positive reception, but it is almost astounding that the game ever came out, because for a long time everyone thought it had been canceled. And that's Final Fantasy 15.
Oh.
It hits every emotional response that you would want in a game that's sort of centered around 4 main male protagonists. And it just, the ideas of brotherhood, growing up, the open world never felt overwhelming or too open. You just want to keep exploring bits and nooks and crannies in it. You want to just keep going out hunting monsters, or just progressing the plot along. The plot is not as complicated as you might think from a Final Fantasy game. I would say it's actually fairly, unlike a lot of the games in the especially more recent games in the franchise. And I think the mythology and everything setting up the game to have a simpler, more relatable kind of atmosphere and character dynamics, I think works especially well to its advantage in making it more accessible, as well as making the idea of the game's original tagline when it was Final Fantasy Versus 13, that this is a fantasy based on reality. I think not necessarily that they stuck with that theme, but I think in terms of how the characters all relate to each other and relate to the world, it just is very emotionally impacting. I fell in love with the game, and I still actually haven't gone back and done all of the DLC stuff for it. I know there was some controversy because they canceled the last 3 ones that they were going to do for it, and they're instead going to release it in terms of I think like a book that's coming out later this year, I believe. But I mean, it did it for me. Fun combat, action, active combat. So yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say. I love Final Fantasy, and I think 15. Super fun, super solid entry in the series, and I think the amount of polish and the amount of forward thinking that it shows for the series is very on display. So I love that game.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 9 is Call of Duty Ghosts. Now, Call of Duty Ghosts
really?
would not be my favorite Call of Duty by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I'd say Black Ops is better. Modern Warfare 3 is better. Modern Warfare Remastered is better, which were all in this decade. So why is this on the list? I don't know. So there's one mode in Call of Duty Ghosts. There's a reason that this became like my most played Call of Duty for this decade easily, is because I always like creating games within games, weird little modes and stuff. So in Call of Duty Ghosts, they have a thing called Squads mode, where you could have a little squad of bots go along with you, and you could also play co-op. So I would do this with my brother. I'd do this with my best friend and another friend. I showed them all this mode that I created, where you could go into squads mode, and you could name all the different bots on weird things, and then I would track it in a log. It was like a competitive, the only way you can do squads mode is working together against another team of bots. But I would also treat it as a competitive thing where we would track our stats and who is like the MVP of each round. And then also the bottom squad member would get cut out. So it was like an elimination thing. It's we would name the bots different based on different characters or people and stuff, and it would track it. It's weird things that I'm into, but that's not possible in any other Call of Duty games. So that's why I played that one the most. Otherwise, I would have put Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered probably, because that one's a really good game. Not to be confused with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare or Call of Duty Modern Warfare. The 3 Modern Warfare games, aside from Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3. It's a mess. But yeah, that's it.
Yes.
Number 9.
Okay, so my number 8 is BioShock Infinite.
Never played it. Never heard of it.
And I was thinking through this list, I actually kind of forgot about this game for a little while. But then, as I was thinking about, okay, well, let's get out of that. Let's get out of the RPGs. What other games have I played that I really, really loved? And BioShock Infinite immediately came to mind as a first-person shooter. I think in terms of story-driven FPSs, it's one of the best. I know people hold Half-Life 2 up really high. To me, I think BioShock did it so well. BioShock Infinite, I should say, did it so well. um, really made you care about Elizabeth and the world and the adventure that you were on. Tackled a lot of like really heavy themes in a fairly respectful way. I don't think that there was much handling ideas of religion and your patriotism, American idealism is kind of like the sort of the target of the criticism. And I think that the game handles its themes so deftly that you don't necessarily see games doing all the time. Games with heavy-handed messages, sometimes I don't think that they're as well fleshed out as I think BioShock Infinite was able to do. And I think in addition to it and its 2 DLC chapters, Burial at Sea, I think it was just able to tackle some really interesting kind of out there ideas in storytelling too. I mean, alternate dimensions and things are all that's in a lot of fiction, but I think that it did it very intelligently. And yeah, I mean, it's a game I need to go back and play that game again. I really loved my time with it, and BioShock Infinite is a must play if you haven't played it. Definitely give it a shot. I'd say play BioShock 1 first if you haven't even played that, because that's still a great game too. But Infinite is different, and I think that's maybe why some people didn't necessarily consider it as highly, because it's a very different game from the first BioShock. But yeah.
Okay.
No.
I haven't played any BioShock game yet, so
Oh, okay.
keep that in mind. My number 8 is one that I actually am not even near finishing, and I'm currently playing with my brother, and that's Borderlands 2.
Oh, okay.
So we just started playing this towards the end of last year into this year. So it's like I'm just making a bold leap in saying that I think this is one of my favorite games of the decade, because
Yeah.
I just think it's so good, and it's like the best, like exactly what you want from a co-op game. Especially like we played it at first split screen when we would play it together, but then it became easier to just play it online, and it actually works really well online. Like there's never any problems with it. And I imagine if you had like 4 people, it would be even more fun, because you can all like hop in the vehicle, go around, and all be working on stuff at the same time. It's really cool, and I just think it's I love first-person shooters and cool RPG elements. Like I love that they mix that too, unlike pretty much any game I've played, and the fact that like I love being able to do all these side quests, and there's like endless amounts of side quests in the game. We still have hours more to do, and they're always fun, even on like the hard stuff. Like when it gets more difficult, generally it's not too difficult as a game, but even when it's harder, it's like still enjoyable, because you can always revive each other, and you can always run back, and you don't really lose that much from losing it. So it's really just kind of a have fun, mindless game. I find myself not caring too much. I've heard the story is better in this one than like the previous one, but I find myself not caring too much about the story, only because it's hard to like, you'll be playing the game and then the characters will be talking over it, and then I'm talking to my brother at the same time, so it's not like I can fully get immersed in it. So that kind of takes a backseat. But I mean, it's still interesting seeing like the characters' interaction and all the weird quests they'll have you do, stuff like that. And it's just a cool world. Like we keep getting introduced to more stuff, and the world keeps getting bigger and bigger. It's really cool.
So my next game is Catherine.
Oh.
Catherine is still on the same subject of dealing with subjects, heavy subjects in a mature fashion. This deals with sex, infidelity, and a lot of other issues that people in or not in relationships face. Work versus life balance. I think it does such an interesting, and because I mean the game is partway simulator, and then half a puzzle game inside your mind. The puzzle game aspect is it's super hard. It's a very difficult game, and I can totally understand it's not everybody's cup of tea. But I love puzzle games. I think I sort of came to figure that out this decade, that I really like puzzle aspects in games. I don't think I played nearly as many puzzle games to necessarily warrant that, but I don't find myself shying away from that genre. I think of something like The Witness as well as another puzzle game. Catherine really, scratches that itch. Plus, it's it's an anime style game, so that's going to feed into my interest there. And I think that it just does such a, again, just really good job dealing with, and maybe more maturely than you might think, given some of its like advertising and the trailers and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a really, really good game for sure. I think it earns its mature rating, but it's solid.
Yeah, just from seeing it on the outside, I never would have imagined it handling deep subjects, because like even the collector's edition, isn't it like come with boxers and stuff? I remember seeing that.
Yeah. The Love Is Over edition came with, it came with boxer briefs. So I mean, it's a pillow cover as well.
No, yeah.
It not quite like body pillow, but it does come with a pillowcase. So yeah, I mean, you're vamping at that point, as a creator, but the game does deal with it a lot more maturely than you might think. So yeah, props to them for that.
Well, my number 7 is one that, of course, everyone knew would be on this list. It had to be everyone's favorite game, Rhythm Heaven Fever, on the Wii. It's so good. It's so good.
That's great. That's awesome. I've actually never played Fever. I've only played the DS game.
I've played a very limited amount of the DS game. I really want to go back to it, but Rhythm Heaven
I really
Fever,
liked it.
Like another level. It's like the perfect thing for. I forgot to mention this with Tetris too. The Wiimote works really well with that, and the same way with Rhythm Heaven Fever. It's really simple. It's like A button, B button are like the only two things that are used, I'm pretty sure, the whole time, and it's just motion based. Rhythm based, and
yeah.
But it's like some of it's really simple, but then some of it gets really challenging, and then the more challenging parts are when they do the remixes, which is after you learn a bunch of different mini games, I guess you could call them. I don't know what they call them, but you'll learn different rhythm patterns in like different environments, and then it'll put it all together in a remix with like a fun song, and that's when it gets more challenging, because you have to remember how to time everything and all the different controls for that. But it's just a game I always love going back to, and it's not like a crazy amount of content, but I've still gotten a lot of replay value out of it. Like playing with a friend can be fun too, just seeing how each other does. It never gets old for me.
So my next game is, and I was really torn. I was really torn on which of these games really ultimately I enjoyed from this franchise, and I had to go with it. I got my copy of it signed by Charles Martinet. I mean, what else could I do than choose Super Mario Odyssey?
Nice.
2017 was an amazing time for video games for me. There was games in 2016 I was still playing then, but 2017 marked the launch of the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
And just like hit after hit on that console. Mario Odyssey scratched every itch I wanted in a Mario game since Mario 64, basically. Mario Sunshine's great. I love it. The Galaxy games, great. I love them, especially Galaxy 2, which kind of is list. And Mario Odyssey blended a world design that feels like Mario 64, where you're just kind of open and free to explore, do whatever you want. And you can go towards a specific goal of moons, or you can just search around the environment and find whatever ones you want. Sometimes you'll just stumble across them. Other ones you'll do a really long series of things to just get somewhere, and then boom, you're rewarded with a moon. some people I think felt a little like cheapened because it's like, well, they're not like they're not like stars. They don't feel as special. And you're right, they don't necessarily feel as special. But I think having a series of accomplishments adds up to a greater sum than that is horrifying. Adds up to a greater sum at the end of the day. When the game basically lets you choose where you want to end the game. Do you want to end the game after you beat Bowser? You can do that. Do you want to end the game after you do every major thing in all the worlds? You can do that. Do you want to finish the game when you've done literally everything, bought everything from the shop, gotten all the unlockable costumes, done every level, gotten every moon in each level, and then done the super hard challenge at the end? You can do that way too. You can end the game kind of whenever you want, and that's sort of, to me, catering it to casual fans or completionists is great game design, especially Mario game design, because Mario's always kind of done that. At least the 3D Marios have always kind of done that. They've kind of let it up to you to sort of decide when do you feel is enough. And there's so much enjoyment in just moving Mario in this game that I couldn't stop playing it until I got in everything. I had so much fun. The music is so infectious. Mario always has an amazing soundtrack. But man, Jump Up Superstar and and especially the first world you go to, that music gets me. The first world music is just like,
Yeah.
gets me pumped, like every Mario Galaxy song to like the 10th degree. Yeah, I just what a game. What a beautiful game.
It is a great game.
That had to be on my list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My next game, number 6 on my list, is The Walking Dead Telltale series.
Ooh.
Season 1. Now,
Yeah,
this
nice choice.
The game that made me fall in love with Telltale to begin with. And this kind of storytelling game in general, pretty much. It really got me into that kind of game, which I really enjoy now, and the whole like making decisions, branching paths, that kind of thing, which is something I really fell in love with in this decade for sure. And season 1, just like more than any other season, I haven't played the final season yet, but more than any other season, there was like a level of attachment that you get to the main characters of like, so good.
Big time.
And there were some other Telltale games I considered, like The Wolf Among Us is really good, but you know, I was just more attached, and this was more like impactful on me in general in the decade. I feel like Telltale has had its ups and downs for sure, but this was like the high for me, and I mean, this is really what made them so successful to begin with. Like out of nowhere, just their popularity skyrocketed from this game, and it makes sense because it really did something you didn't see often in the modern gaming world.
Yeah, adventure games had basically died at that point, so like point and click style. So it's cool to see them have a little bit of a resurgence for sure. So we're up to 5 now, aren't we? We're up to the top 5.
Top 5, baby.
Top 5. All right. Okay. So next one of my games on my list. So it did make top 5. May surprise some people if you've played this game. Why isn't it your top number 1? Because this is my list. You big whiner. Yeah, and that's the Last of Us.
Oh.
Yeah.
I haven't played it.
Okay. Don't think I've ever played a game that has made me feel and question things as much. Again, we're dealing with themes, heavy themes. The storytelling, the craftsmanship behind the writing, the cinematography, the motion capture is super artfully done. I think the Naughty Dog really knocked it out of the park this decade with basically everything they did. And The Last of Us is I haven't even played the Uncharted games. I know people rant and rave about those, but um, Last of Us is a landmark in storytelling in video games, and um, I think it deserves every credit it gets because the gameplay. I think people sometimes also underplay that the gameplay is actually really solid. It's not a amazing system that's ever been devised. It's simple and effective. It uses a very down to earth sort of crafting style to make different things, weapons, and abilities, and then just kind of straightforward third person shooter gunplay. Plenty of guided story sections, but let you play through a sequence. Are all just super well done. And I think this, to me, especially sort of denoted a change in tone for what Sony as a studio was searching for from their first party partners. Because I mean they've a lot of their games have done similar things in focusing to a more introspective and a more grounded sort of storytelling. You see it happen with God of War, see it happen with like Spider-Man, having these emotional stories that service the gameplay is definitely where it's at, and I think this is just an amazing experience that everybody really should give up. At least if you don't have time to play it, give it a watch because it's definitely worth it. It's a very moving experience. So
nice. Yeah, I definitely want to try it. I've heard. I mean, all I hear is praise with these games, and it's like you don't understand like how good they are until you actually play them because it's just like it just in one ear out the other, and it's like I hear
that
game of the year all the time.
That was me with God of War, basically. Which I will another spoiler. That's not on this list. So
yeah. All right, my next game on this list. Hold on.
What's he doing here?
Hold on. It's Donkey Kong Country Returns, baby.
Wow.
Cool. Number 5.
Nice choice.
I love Donkey Kong.
Cool.
And I've grown to love Donkey Kong as a character in general. He's my main in Smash. He's my spirit animal, you might say. I love.
You just really like bananas, don't you?
I don't. I hate bananas, actually. So, not my spirit animal.
Yeah, maybe not.
But Donkey Kong Country Returns is the best. It's the best 2D platformer of the decade, easily. It's
wow.
It's so good. The game, I mean, Tropical Freeze. It could have been that too, I guess. But really, Donkey Kong Country Returns resonated with me so much, and. The Wii Remote just works so well with it. The way the minimal motion control is just, that's the way the Wii Remote should be used. It's just a little shake for a roll, and everything else, it's formatted perfectly on that controller, and it's just so perfectly responsive. The minecart levels are so great in that game. It was kind of like something no one ever expected when this was revealed. I think it was E3 2010 where they had like some of the best Nintendo reveals ever then. It was like Donkey Kong Country Returns, Kirby's Epic Yarn, GoldenEye was an epic reveal at the time. GoldenEye, Skyward Sword. It was a great year.
I think Golden Sun Dark Dawn was shown off then too.
Oh yeah.
I want to say.
Yeah, and I mean that was the peak of like live Nintendo E3 presentation. That's what I want to see. You just hear so many people hyped in the crowd. All these reveals.
Even though Skyward Sword was kind of flubbed because of how
but I love that.
It was yeah, it's meme worthy for sure.
I love that too. I love the flaws of live presentation, but just that hype that came into Donkey Kong Country Returns and the fact that it actually delivered on a really good game. And just, I love the music, everything about it. It's a fun time. You haven't played
I've never
Returns
played
yet,
it.
right?
I need to play. I need to play. I haven't played Returns. I really do need to. I do a disservice to you by not playing it yet because I know you speak highly of that one. So hopefully,
Well,
maybe this year.
I've already done plenty of
Um,
disservices to you. I haven't like played any of the games you named yet, right?
yeah, I suppose that's true. I suppose that's true. So, so next on my list, it's tough because I'm really torn between my 3 and 4. I don't know which I'd put above the other because they're very different games. They there's they appeal to me as a weeb, but they're very different in the sense one is extremely long, the other is a visual novel.
You'll never see it coming.
And you'll never see it coming. And
What is it gonna be?
I think ultimately I have to yield my 4th place spot to Persona 5.
Okay, saw it coming.
And yeah, Persona 5, I actually just finished this game last weekend.
Full credit to me for that.
Was it? It was part of a Jets challenge, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I finally finished it after all this time, and wow, just everything I would want in a game is in there. You have a great, slick battle system, an incredible soundtrack.
Yeah.
Really engaging, interesting story.
Yes.
Good amount of humor, great voice acting, emotional beats, and you can have social interactions. You can go goof around in town, play arcade games.
That's what I love.
And swing a baseball bat, go fishing. You can do all kinds of stuff in this game. I mean, none of it. Some of that stuff. I mean, I kind of oversell it there a little bit because like some of that stuff is just very simple mini games, but I think just given the breadth of all kinds of customizability that you have in the game too, you can basically, have take whatever personas you want into battle with you. Customization. It really lends the game to replayability. And
replayability.
Managing your stats, yes, it may surprise you, but the game does have replayability. Managing stats, I wouldn't say it's not replayable necessarily for the story, but if you want to, unlock all of the social interactions and stuff, you kind of need to play. Unless you were like specifically managing your stuff like perfectly, you basically have to do a second playthrough in order to sort of do everything there is to.
Like when I miss stuff like that, I'm always anal about that stuff. I want to be able to experience everything.
You still can. I mean, like I said, you would have to plan it out pretty consistently, I would say. So, but I mean, the game, I didn't do everything, but I still don't feel like I missed that much. I mean, I missed some, so it's like, yeah, I'll probably revisit the game in a few months, but
in a decade.
I don't know. I have to come back to it before then. I think I just can't get enough of that amazing soundtrack. I mean, I can't tell you how nice it is that you can hear that main battle theme like hundreds of times and never get tired of it ever. So yeah, Persona 5 is just what a game, perfect craft. It also it just exudes style. It's more than just an anime style game. It really is. The menus are slick. The doing things in battle where it will focus on different characters at different angles and do just these really awesome things with the camera and movement. Just so much craftsmanship in the art in that game, and big props. So that's my number 4.
Yeah, that's Persona 5 is an example of one that I think for sure could be like on my list if I played more of it, because I've only played a few hours of it. I can already tell it's something I would love. I love any game that has like simulation aspects and RPG mechanics mixed together.
Yeah.
Have you played the Personas before it?
I played maybe about 10 hours of Persona 4. I love that game too. I just I was in college at the time, and I think it was like getting close to finals. It was in like March or April when I was starting, and I was really loving it, but it was just too I had too much going on, and then I think there were other games that came out and sort of got in the way, and I just never went back to it.
Yeah.
That's a game I definitely want to revisit. I think what's gonna be tough is going back to some of the older games, because as far as I remember, most of the dungeons in the earlier games, Persona 4, 3 and 4, are randomly generated.
Yeah,
Um,
3 was, I think, yeah. 'Cause I played some of that.
yeah, and the only random generation in this game is in like there's an area called Mementos that you can go to, and
Hmm.
that's randomly generated. But all the rest of the dungeons in the game are crafted, they're planned out and designed. Um, so I think that is a spoil in and of itself for those other games, because I mean there's something to be said about randomly generated dungeons, but the craftsmanship behind those dungeons, like, they're all very memorable in their own way. Um,
Yeah, I like
and
that.
yeah, and I did too. I adored playing that game. Like, there would be times where I'd just play it for close to 8 hours straight, and I thought those days were done for me. I would do that. I'd pull long sessions with it and
Hmm.
not get tired of it. So, yeah,
Yeah, they all have great music too. Because I remember even just from the bit I played at Persona 3, there was already great music in there.
yeah,
And then Persona 4, I never played, but someone like shared the track from that game, and I was like, "Ooh, this is great." They all have like
yeah,
really distinct styles to them.
yeah,
It's really
for
cool.
sure.
All right, so number 4 for me is Super Mario Galaxy 2 for the Nintendo Wii console. Yeah,
See, I'm telling you, man, it wasn't off my list by much. It's such a amazing game.
honestly, like I could be convinced between Mario Galaxy 2, Mario Odyssey, Mario 3D World. I loved all those games, and I mean I could almost
Yeah,
convince
3D World
myself.
was also. I think people underrate 3D World a lot. I
Yeah,
think that game has a lot of merit to it.
I could almost convince myself to have like all 3 of the games on this list, and it would be a stretch.
Yeah,
But I tried to just keep it to one for series.
yeah,
But yeah, so like I'd have to give him more time with Mario Odyssey, I think, like to reflect on it really, because
hmm
just first instinct, like I just think Mario Galaxy 2 has more of a long-standing impact on me, but I haven't gotten to see that yet for Odyssey. Just Galaxy
mm.
2 is the best 3D platformer of the decade, without question, except for other Mario games. But it's so good. It's one of the few games that, and this is with a lot of Mario 3D platformers, that'll actually go to the extent of like trying to complete everything, and they'll always do the extra level, like on Mario Galaxy 2 for the 242 stars. There's a super hard Daredevil run you have to do, which is a really tough, but it was a great challenge, and it's like super rewarding when you finally get it. Because with the games like Mario, when they have challenges like that, the games are so polished, so it's like you have no one to blame but yourself whenever you you mess it up.
Oh,
So it's like
absolutely,
you
yeah.
you can get frustrated with it, but it's like no, it's I can get this done though, because it's not like random things are happening that I can't control. But
Mm.
so good, so polished, music amazing. It's like unlike any of its kind with the orchestrated music, such a distinct style to it, unlike any other Mario game, Nintendo game. It really sets itself apart. It's a great game.
I love that Starship Mario track is great. I love it. I love that. Yeah, that's great game. And I literally just getting lost in remembering how good that game is. So So my top three, if you know me, this will probably come to no surprise. Maybe some of them might. Maybe one of them might. The next one might.
Okay.
Um, but that game, I'd sort of hinted as it was before, but that game is Katawa Shoujo.
Of course.
Um,
Yes.
I talked about it on our Games with Impact. Games with Impact
Games with impact. I don't remember
list.
doing that
Yeah,
episode.
yeah, whatever
The
it's
10
called.
games that define us.
Define us. Yeah, sure, whatever. um, I talked about it on that, maybe more in depth, but I every few months, just something reminds me of how beautiful a time I had playing that game. Solidarity in knowing that, okay, I don't have a disability like the girls in the game, but they're not really all that different, and people aren't really all that different than me. People aren't really all that different from me. And it's not those things that define you. It's other characteristics. It's other things that you find important and value. Um, I think the writing in that game for just a bunch of amateur game developers is just amazing, and it's just so impactful and meaningful. And it really opened my eyes to like what a game can be more than. It doesn't have to be anything more complicated than making choices in a flowchart. As long as that game has enough art and character and style and beautiful music to keep you engaged in a story, then I think that can can still stand the test as to what a game really is. So there are other visual novels I played this decade that definitely deserve mention, but Katawa Shoujo is the one that really opened my eyes to the genre, and I think definitely had the most impact on me. People owe it to themselves to play the game, I think. Again, it's a game. It's not intended for young audiences, but because again, it's a frank. It has have frank depictions of sex and such. But it's beyond its years in some of its wisdom, I think. In the sense that like it takes place in high school, but I think a lot of what you can glean out of it is more impacting than just he's good. But one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard in a video game. Just
Hmm.
everything in that game just evokes a memory for me. I'll hear bits and pieces of that soundtrack and just be flung right back into the nostalgia and into the emotions that the game evokes. A lot of tears were shed. A lot of laughs were laughed playing that game. It's not very long. Maybe depending on how fast you can read, you can probably blow through it in an evening. Maybe a couple evening. You might not want to do that. Want to do it yourself to give yourself that emotional roller coaster. Probably spread it out over a few sessions.
Hmm.
But by all means, the community for the most part around that game has quieted down a lot. I'd like to see more people appreciate that game again. I think there was a little bit of a smaller revival when Doki Doki Literature Club came out. I know some people in sort of the fan base of that were recommended Katawa Shoujo and came to love it through that. Yeah, it was a very important game for me, sort of navigating kind of ideas I had about people and relationships, and I think the game burst through things that I had either preconceived notions I had or things I thought I wanted. So it's definitely a and a good story. So series of stories, but there's different paths in the game, as you may know from if you are versed in visual novels. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you ever want to talk to me about that, by all means, write a comment or message me. I couldn't recommend it enough. I will say it's not perfect because there's actually one path in the game that is easily weaker than the other few.
Which path
I
is that?
still think the game is totally worth it. Shizune.
Okay. Because I always meant to go back and
She's the class president.
I always meant to go back and do the
Oh,
routes that I
we're getting
didn't.
delayed.
Oh my god.
Oh no, so much of a delay. You always meant to go back and do other routes.
Yeah, I only did the Emmy route,
Oh,
but
okay, yeah, and she's great.
yeah, I really liked
I mean, she's great.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah.
So number
So
three, number three for
mhm.
me is The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. There
Oh dang, son!
it is. Slipped it
Whoop!
in
There it
there.
is.
So this is everything I want in a video game right here. I want a massive world to just
Mhm.
explore, and it's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's open. It's an open world. It's so good, and
Mm.
it's like I've never was that sucked into any Zelda game in the past. Like I've played several and have never finished. I'm bad with finishing games in general, obviously, but I've never finished a Zelda game until this one. And finished is still in quotations because I didn't do nearly everything you can do, which is awesome. There's so much to do in the world. The world feels alive, like you can really immerse yourself in it. And the fact that, like, when they teased the game and they were like, you see all that stuff in the background, you can actually go over to it. And they're like, all right, we'll see about that. And it turned out to be true and then some. There was so much. The world's huge, and the world isn't just like a bunch of dead space. There's like so much in every corner of it, and it feels like a world because there's so much different variety in the different towns and the different environments and how it's all handled. It's really, really awesome. I'm glad they're doing a direct sequel because I'm like, I wouldn't mind this being just the future of Zelda, really, and do this with more Nintendo series. I wouldn't mind that either.
I totally agree with you. I agree with you so much that that's actually my number two game is
Yes.
Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Yeah, this game came out at the perfect time for me. I was having to deal with some personal issues, uh, parsing through I don't want to get into any of the details, but
Let's dig
um,
in.
let's dig in. Okay, well, weird aspects of a relationship was all kind of going on right when the Switch came out. It was just a
Make
strange time for me emotionally. But this game gave me a perfect escape. And it it's just again, like you said, it's basically like all you could want from a game. It gives you. Some people don't like. I understand. Like open world games aren't actually always for me, but because of it giving you basically kind of playing hands off with you, not necessarily forcing you down a path, giving you saying, here's the end goal. There it is. You need to fight Ganon. You need to go to that tower. You need to go to the castle. But giving you free reign to explore, make your own sort of goals. I'm going to go around. I'm going to find every one of those towers so I can fill out the map. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do this shrine. I'm going to go explore this area because it looks like there's a cave over there. Giving yourself your own little micro goals to do, while still also saying, "Hey, there's a village over here. You should go explore that." And just by talking to people, they'll be like, "Yeah, if you keep following this bridge, you go that way,
Yeah.
you'll be able to find a village." Having the directions in the world like that is amazing. Like you could probably play through that game without the map. You might get a little confused in some places, but there's enough you like idea. Hey, you should over here, or if you keep going up that way, there's a Goron village up that way. Keep going following that path. Look out for the lava. Stuff like that is just, to me, it made the world. It's a sad world, it's a world after a calamity, a big, practically a apocalypse happened. But it's a world with possibility still. It's not completely hopeless.
Yeah.
Um, and exploring that concept in a Zelda game, it feels almost like what Zelda 1 was almost kind of doing.
Mm-hmm.
It just they knocked it out of the park. I mean, it's kudos to them. They really did an amazing job with that game. So, I mean, we could go on for a long time talking about the merits of Breath, but it's an absolute masterpiece of a game.
Yeah, we should do a video sometime
So
talking
yeah, I'm
about
glad there's a direct sequel coming.
what we want for Breath of the Wild 2, what they should change for that.
Yeah, that's a good idea, good concept.
Because the one thing, I want better weapons that don't break instantly. That's what I want.
Yeah, the weapons. Yeah.
And also,
Yeah.
of course, marriage. I want to be able to marry these people. It needs to be
I want
added.
to be. I want to marry Mifa, and marry Zorldo.
What do you think? Is it going to be some sort of like co-op or like you can play as Zelda kind of thing? Like what are they
I don't
teasing
know.
here?
I'm kind of hoping. I'm kind of hoping it's something like what they did, either what they did in like Spider-Man, or like what they did in The Last of Us, where Zelda is with you, but she's kind of not necessarily a playable character. Maybe she will be parts of it, but she's just like a very helpful character where she's doing things for you and has a very either you can direct her to go do stuff or just has a really helpful AI in general, or maybe like God of War even. You know that system worked really well too, where you don't necessarily control a boy, but you have different things that you have him do by pressing different actions on the D-pad stuff. So it could be something like that too. I think that to me would be the perfect middle ground, but I don't know. I'm definitely looking forward to see what they do with.
Yeah. We'll talk more in depth on it at a later date for sure. So my number 2 is Animal Crossing New Leaf. Here it is.
Yeah.
It's gonna be an Animal Crossing every decade. It has to be. Now I'm hoping Animal Crossing New Horizons will be a highlight for me, but I don't know how you can, just from what I've seen of New Horizons, how it will be able to compare it to New Leaf, because New Leaf is like the best, the definitive Animal Crossing is the one I would point everybody to if they wanted to try to get into the series. It has the most to offer, and it's inviting to casual players, but it has a lot of the stuff that the hardcore Animal Crossing fans like as well. And there's just something about Animal Crossing I've always loved. Probably my favorite is the GameCube version, just because it's so nostalgic for me, and it's still one I can go back to and have a lot of great times with. And it has the acre system, whereas now it's like the revolving world style. But New Leaf, I love everything, almost everything about it. It introduced the one like big revolutionary aspect to Animal Crossing that we've seen in a while, which made you the mayor, and you had the ability to build stuff and actually influence how the town operates in a way, which is like I was hoping to see expanded on in the next one. I don't know. It's like they're making it more bare bones, but maybe you'll have more power with that too. I don't know how that will translate, but obviously Animal Crossing, a very acquired taste. If you're gonna like it, you'll know immediately. If you're not, it's a very hit or miss. But the people the people that play it love it. I don't hear many people that play it and played through it for a lot and are like, it's okay. Usually you drop it pretty soon because it's really the type of person, like it's you create your own routine, you get into your own. It's a game the whole series is revolutionary in that it progresses based on a real life clock, and you could celebrate when there's a holiday in real life. You can hop on there and celebrate the same holiday, and there's something you can do every day. But it's also a different game to where like people that like to just play hours on end for games might not like it as much, because generally there's like a set amount you can do a day. It's usually a little bite size doses after, especially the beginning. Once you have your routine down. So I'm hoping New Horizons. When I would really like to just like take the day off to play that game, but I don't know if it's like one of the games where you'll have a very limited amount to do. Because in Animal Crossing Past, you might like work for Tom Nook, and sometimes that limits what you can do for the first couple of days. And it's not one that, and like certain shops aren't open past certain hours, stuff like that. You're limited on, so it's not necessarily one that's known to just sit there and play for hours on end. But I'm hoping it opens up a little bit, since they have like crafting and stuff in the new one. But yeah, Animal Crossing had to be on there.
Yeah.
Number one, best game, your favorite game of the decade.
No, well, first I was going to do some honorable mentions.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Just real quick takes, nothing really overly complex. So Overwatch, obviously, I've talked about at length. I do really like that game a lot. I look on it a little less favorably more recently. I don't think they've necessarily done the best job of. I don't know. I don't know how the direction of that game is. I think Overwatch 2 is going to make or break it for me. I think if Overwatch 2 is a huge success, I think I'll look back on Overwatch more favorably again. But it's easily top 50, far off this list. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. I played through that game probably like 4 or 5 times when it first came out. I adored playing it. It was a nice, quick game. It was challenging. It was fun and rewarding, and a really great battle system. Xenoblade Chronicles. It's tough to me, the fact that I didn't put this game on this list, but talking about an open world experience, this game had that in spades. But I think to me, what's gonna really help this game, in my estimation, will be the remake that comes out, the graphical update, the remaster. Skyward Sword and A Link Between Worlds. I actually had a shocking lack of portable games on here.
Mm-hmm.
The 3DS. I think it's an amazing console, but I didn't have hardly any on here. Marvel Spider-Man, which I mentioned. Kingdom Hearts 3, to me, lived up to the hype. It lived up to everything that I wanted from the game and more. Smash Ultimate, Bastion, God of War, and that's pretty much what I would say in terms of some honorable mentions. I love all those games. It's like choosing children.
Do you want me to do my honorable mentions?
Yeah.
Okay. So Fable 3, mostly because I know like some people hate on this game, but I love that game, and mostly because I haven't played Fable 2 enough, whereas that would likely make my list at some point. Virtue's Last Reward, really like that. I was really considering putting it on there. Mario 3D World.
Yeah, 999 was a consideration for me. Yeah.
Mario Odyssey, Call of Duty Black Ops, Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. I'll consider these as alternates. And then Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Disney Infinity, Mass Effect 2, The Wolf Among Us, and then Harvest Moon games like Stardew Valley, those kinds of things which I haven't played enough of in this decade at least, that I couldn't put them on there. I also was thinking about cheating and putting like Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition on there, because Tales of Vesperia was just outside of it.
Yeah.
Outside of the decade.
Yeah.
But
I think it was like 2008 though, wasn't it? 2008. Yeah.
2008, and like I wanted Modern Warfare 2, 2009, Dragon Quest 9,
2009. Yep.
2009. Those are 2 I would have had on there. I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
So that's it. Now, what's your favorite game of the decade, undisputably?
It would, again, not everyone who knows me knows how much I speak the gospel of this game, and no one agrees with me, and that's okay. It's okay. We all have different tastes. This game actually technically came out in 2009 in Japan, but it came out in 2010 in North America. So it does count as a game of the decade.
Sure.
And that game is Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, it changed my perspective on video games, on what they could be, on what RPGs could do. I know everybody criticizes it because it's so linear. Everybody criticizes it because they don't like the characters. Everybody criticizes it for any other number of reasons.
Yeah.
I don't care. I
Damn.
had an amazing, amazing experience with this game. It came out again. I think a lot of these games for me, that came out like a week within another week. Pokemon Soul Silver came out too at the same time. So while I was reliving nostalgia, like my love of Gen 2 on the handheld, I was playing a console Final Fantasy game at launch. I was really just starting to get into Final Fantasy like a lot at this time. I'd really fallen in love with the music of the series, and being able to play a brand new game that looked incredible graphically, with outstanding music, fantastic voice acting, and just falling in love with this crazy, complicated world and mythology, and getting to follow these 6 characters in their horrible plight, was just it. Just I completely was spellbound by it. I love 13. 13 means easily the most to me out of any of the games of the series. I think 15 does come close because of the long wait. I was getting hyped for Versus 13 in the like around the same time as I was getting excited for 13. So 15 is definitely like it's still really important. It's on my list for sure. But 13, because by nature of it coming out before it and my nature of the time in my life where it came out, where it was the gap year I took between high school and college, it did it for me. Completely nailed everything, and showing me that games could have as impacting a story as any movie was something I look towards. I mean, and you can see a lot of the games on my list are games I felt impacted by because of a story aspect. You know, and I think that to me is something that I loved about games, is that they were interactive stories. That's the thing I still look to in games. Obviously, not everything. Mario is obviously a big thing for me. Zelda, you know, gameplay comes first. Shovel Knight, but I think stories are just as important at times. So
Yeah, F you, Rusty.
and yeah. Well, he I mean, he'd agree with me on The Last of Us. So,
But he doesn't like stories. He just
But-
played that game for the gameplay.
okay, Zach, what's your number one?
My number one, my favorite game of the decade, it's Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Knew it was coming. Knew it was coming.
It had to be there. It's the best. It's
It
a
did.
celebration of gaming. It's not a fighting game. It's a celebration.
More
of
than a
gaming.
fighting game. It's
Yeah.
not just a fighting game. To quote
Not
Sakurai
just.
from today. Yeah.
Yeah. Byleth is in the game, so now that pushed it right to number one. It was at number 2
okay.
before Byleth was announced.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Byleth did it for you.
it's the best. Smash Bros. Is a series that means a lot to me, and I mean it's debatable whether like mechanically Melee or Ultimate is better, but Ultimate, as far as like content, as far as so much to appreciate, it's the best. It's a definitive Smash Bros. Game, and it's nothing more I could ask for. Like every character except for Waluigi that deserves to be there is there, and it's like it is a celebration of gaming, and it's a game that I play every week, which perhaps is the reason I haven't made much progress on games in the past year that it's been out. It's like, because I'll always think, I have some time to play a game, what should I play? I'll just play Smash Bros. Again, feeling Smash Bros. So then I never make progress on anything else.
That was me in Overwatch.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time. I mean, Overwatch, like I said, it didn't make my list. It was honestly, it was kind of almost a toss up between that and Shovel Knight. I ended up going Shovel Knight because I think it has more longevity. Overwatch is in kind of a weird spot right now, for me, and I think for a lot of people. But I totally jive with that idea of, man, I don't really know what to play. I'll throw this on. I'll play a few matches. I'll just have a good time.
But it's
and
so
not many
good.
games.
It's one of those games.
Special to find a game. Special to find a game that can do that.
Yeah, it's one of those games where you can make your own game out of it too, where it's like you can play it any way you want. I have fun with it both competitively and casually. You know, all items, complete BS craziness going on, and then competitively no items. I enjoy both a lot, and it's one of the few games that I consider myself pretty good at. I mean, I'm obviously not top player, but it's one I enjoy being able to actually hold my own in and play it competitively, semi-competitively. But then at the same time, I can turn around and play it super casually with items and all these tons of stages, tons of music, the best soundtrack in video game history, probably. Like, they
just in terms of magnitude alone,
yeah.
It's got every hit from every game that's represented.
Except for Final Fantasy, where they gave one track.
Yeah, where it only has 2 tracks.
Yeah.
It has, that's that's the thing. Well, if they have another Final Fantasy representative, which I have a feeling they might, they need to remedy that, because they need to have more of those iconic moments, those iconic soundtrack.
But I just checked earlier today, and I'm up to 470 hours Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's
not bad for a year.
It's a year, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not counting any time I played at went over to someone else's house and played it, you know, stuff like that, which I did plenty of that as well. So it's just it's a game I'll always be able to go back to, even if new Smash Bros. comes out and it's a better game. You'll never be able to replicate what this game did, in that, you know, setting records all over the place, best-selling fighting game in history, and this many characters this year, and the fact that it's like they're not all clones. Like, they all have, aside for like the few Echo characters in there, they all have unique characteristics about them. To even like the bad characters are just still fun to play, and they all have like a unique experience to them. That's tons.
Yeah.
And I haven't even finished World of Light. I haven't done 99% of classic mode and all that single player stuff. So
wow,
I still have that to go back to at some point. But it's like I never.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's incredible to me that you've spent that much time playing the game, because like that just speaks to how enjoyable the game is on its own.
Yeah, it's It's like,
so
if you have people who don't know how to play it, it's still fun. If you have people who know how to play it, it might be a little more serious, but it's still fun. You know, it works for so many situations.
All right, well, that's our top 10 games of the decade. I'm sure if I finish more games, you know, down the line, I'll probably be like, why did this, like any of the Souls games? I know those games are fun. I like them in terms of concept anyway. Are like Nier Automata. I know we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. But this is it. This is the game of the decade.
We almost had no overlap, but we have one game that was on both of our lists.
Wait a minute. What game was that?
Breath of the Wild, baby.
Oh, Breath of the Wild.
Right.
Oh yeah, I'm an idiot. What's going on? My brain's fried, I guess, or something. I don't know.
It would have been our Tarqaron 20 favorite games of the decade, but now it's 19.
Yeah. Man, well, oh well. That's pretty cool how they did the overlap like that. So
yeah. We almost synced up.
Yeah.
If we could have synced up on that one. I could easily make an argument for myself to make that number 2, though. Like,
yeah,
you know, I think it's just so good. You know.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for watching. Till next time.
Tell us what your favorite games of the decade were down in the comments below.
Yeah. Tell us what your favorite game of next decade. What your top 10 for next decade will be as well. And we'll see how that goes.
Predict.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah.